Jojo Betzler.
Yep, this is our main character after getting ready for a long day ahead of him. If he only knew. This is 2019's Jojo Rabbit. Spoiler alert, while I might be giving you my opinion on the film, that's no substitute for watching it yourself. Links to the film are in the description. After Jojo's all dressed in his uniform, he lets everyone know that he's heading to a special training weekend, and he vows to pledge his service to Hitler. Suddenly, Hitler appears and starts to question him on his morals. Suddenly, Jojo shows some doubt in his ability to follow through with everything, but Hitler reassures him that he's got this. Okay, there's no way that's actually Hitler. This Hitler's way too chipper. But I guess that having Hitler as an imaginary friend would make sense for a young German boy that dreams of becoming Germany's finest officer. Still, there's something unsettling in seeing Hitler like this. After a motivational speech from Hitler that ends in a screaming match on who can scream Heil Hitler the best, Jojo makes his way through the streets of Berlin, and even the German people are thrown off by his patriotism. Soon, he meets Yorkie, who asks if he's ready for the big training weekend ahead of them. They run through the woods with some other boys that are joining them in the big weekend, and they eventually find themselves standing in front of Captain Klesendorf, who welcomes them to the Nazi youth camp. Even Klesendorf knows that his name's a mouthful, so he tells them all to call him Captain K. We will too. I'm not saying Klesendorf any more than I have to. We also meet Sub-Officer Finkel and Fräulein Rom. We find out that Captain K is only there because the government thinks you need 2 eyes to lead men, and he apparently lost the sight in one of his eyes during an attack. After a remarkable target practice display, Captain K explains that he'll be showing them a taste of what the real military goes through. We find out that all of them have little daggers, and they're going to be going through real combat drills. The girls, on the other hand, have different training.
Womanly duties, such as dressing wounds, making beds, and learning how to get pregnant.
18 kids for Germany.
You gotta love Rebel Wilson. Even when playing a Nazi, she's still the same old rebel. Training starts for everyone, and it looks as though it's the biggest satire of the war we've ever seen. They draw pictures of Jews as scaly fish people, and burn books in a big bonfire at night. At first, Jojo isn't too keen on everything, but over time, he starts to fall in line. One night, Jojo and Yorkie talk about how scary Jews are, and Jojo tries to explain that he wouldn't be too scared. He'd kill one on the spot, and he'd use that as a way to get closer to the Fuhrer. The next day, Jojo's brought forward to demonstrate that he has no problem killing, and they give him a rabbit to kill. Jojo swears that he isn't scared to kill, but when presented with the opportunity, he tries to save the bunny instead. The Nazi tells Jojo that he's a coward, just like his deserter father. This is where Jojo gets the name Jojo Rabbit. It's a creative way to paint the character, and I'm 1,000 times invested in this story already. I'm not even sure of the endgame for the story, but I want to watch every bit of it. Jojo goes to cry in the woods, but he's joined by imaginary Hitler. After Hitler explains that he's perfectly okay with Jojo being a rabbit, Yorkie shows up to check on Jojo. All of a sudden, Jojo runs back to the camp to show them the kind of Nazi he can be. He happens to run back during the grenade throwing session, and he snatches the grenade right out of Captain K's hands. He throws the grenade, but it ends up bouncing off a tree and landing right at his feet. For a movie about Nazis and Nazi youth, I've already laughed way harder than in half the actual comedy movies I've watched recently. Obviously, Jojo's okay, and he's rushed to the hospital where his mother eventually shows up. This is Rosie, and she helps her baby boy back home, where she tries to get him back into the world. They head down to the Nazi youth office, and after giving Captain K a warm welcome, Jojo's given some jobs to make him feel included. He goes around posting the new propaganda posters, and he notices a public hanging with his mother. When Jojo goes to post more propaganda, he's teased by some Nazis that were at the camp as they drive off to go to war. When Jojo gets home, he goes to Inga's room to look at all the belongings that were left behind, and he notices a secret panel in the wall. When he goes inside the wall, he finds Elsa living in the wall. Jojo literally thinks his life is over here. He's finally come face to face with the mighty devil. He looks absolutely petrified. To top it off, Elsa actually blackmails him into keeping quiet, and she threatens to say that he and his mother helped her. Well, if he didn't like Jews before, he definitely doesn't now. Rosie's the one that actually invited her in. You'd think she would have put a rug in front of a secret panel to cover up the scratch marks or something though. Elsa even tells Jojo not to tell Rosie that he knows that she's there. After getting Jojo to agree on his terms, she heads back into the wall. Jojo retreats and comes up with a plan with imaginary Hitler, and he decides to go and negotiate with Elsa. He tries to tell her that he thinks she needs to find somewhere else to live, But those negotiations fail miserably. Him and Hitler come up with another plan, and Hitler goes on his way. That night, Rosie comes home, and Jojo tries to tell her that he heard Inga's ghost in her room. Rosie doesn't know that he knows, but she tries to play it off like they're just rats in Inga's room. After tucking Jojo in, Rosie goes to tell Elsa that she has to be more quiet, and she tells her that she won't know where to send her if the Nazis find out about her. Elsa explains that she's losing hope, and Rosie tells her that there's always hope. At the same time, Jojo hears Rosie slide the panel shut again. The next day, Jojo goes to physical therapy, and he asks Captain K what would happen if he found a Jew. After finding out how many people would die in the process, he decides that that isn't his best option. I feel like someone would have investigated at that point. The kid that blew himself up with a hand grenade is asking about what would happen to someone that hides Jews. Everybody on his street needs to be interrogated. Luckily, that's not how people are thinking in this story. Captain K blows off his questioning, and Jojo goes back home to talk to Elsa. I'm loving all of this. Jojo explains that they're at a stalemate, and he just wants her to tell him all the secrets of the Jewish race. She treats it like a joke, and Jojo isn't too fond of her attitude towards the whole situation. After Elsa puts him in his place, Jojo heads back downstairs to talk it over with Hitler. Soon, Rosie comes home and burns a paper in the fireplace. She doesn't think Jojo notices her, but he definitely does. That night at dinner, Jojo tries to talk as though he knows a lot more than she thinks, but Rosie can't handle the disrespect anymore. Jojo tells her that he hates that he's stuck with her instead of his father, and she decides to roleplay for a bit.
Don't you ever talk to your goddamn mother like that!
That's a lot better than what I would have gotten. Even a fake dad would have knocked me off that chair for talking the way he did. Rosie manages to pull out a win for the night, and things turn around as she drinks and dances some more. Jojo even jumps up and joins in on the festivities. Upstairs, Elsa can hear the music downstairs, and she sits in her wall room contemplating everything. The next day, Jojo heads back to Inga's room, where he asks her more questions about the Jewish race. We find out that Elsa has a fiancé that's fighting in the resistance, and she explains that one day, Jojo will understand so much more about how the real world works. The next day, Jojo gets a book of Elsa's favorite poet, and he makes a fake letter from her fiancé saying that he's found another woman and he doesn't love her anymore. After reading this, Elsa retreats into the wall where she cries, and Jojo feels so bad that he makes another fake letter that says the first one was a lie. If it wasn't for the fact that Elsa already has a fiancé, I'd definitely be on board for Jojo getting a little crush here. But then I feel like it would end in tragedy. Isn't that how all these World War II dramas go? Just watch the boy in the striped pajamas. Don't. You'll bawl your eyes out. Maybe I should do that one soon. Later on, Jojo gets a talk from his mother that has him hearing more about love, and she explains that there are many more things in the world than what the Fuhrer is telling them. They ride their bikes back home, and Jojo goes to visit Elsa. She gives him a tall tale about the fake Jew species of living in caves and growing horns at 21. Jojo starts to think that there might be something wrong with what he's heard about Jews, but he heads to bed. Once in his room, Hitler tries to warn him against letting the Jew too far into his mind. Later, Rosie and Elsa sit in Inga's room to discuss Rosie's memories. Elsa asks her what being an adult woman is like, and she hears about all the wonderful things she might be able to look forward to if everything goes okay. The next day, Jojo asks Captain K about Jews again, and he tells them that they have to prepare for an imminent invasion.
My friend once met some Russians and they ate him.
Rom's seen some things. I feel like we need a movie to just go through all of her stories. Like a compilation video of all the terrible things her and her friends have experienced. It could be VHS Germany. That day, Jojo has a new job of collecting scrap for the war effort while dressed as a red robot. While on his route, he finds Rosie leaving papers throughout the city. When he reads the paper, it says to free Germany. Later, somehow Yorkie recognizes Jojo in his robot costume for some reason, and he sees that Yorkie's now a soldier. Jojo tells him that he found a Jew, but Yorkie doesn't understand what the big deal is about the Jews. That evening, Jojo brings Elsa some colored pencils, and she tries to tell him that he's not truly a Nazi. Jojo laughs at her comment, and after seeing that Elsa's upset with how dirty she's become, he lets her take a bath. Afterwards, Elsa looks around the house like she never has before, but a knock on the door interrupts them. Elsa runs back upstairs, and Jojo answers the door. When the German Blues Brothers are at your door, you do not invite them in. Granted, they invited themselves in, but I think Jojo's one of the only kids that doesn't peek through the window first or anything. I would have checked like 3 different windows to make sure who it was before even thinking about opening that door. After the men let themselves inside, they start to go through all of the belongings in the house, and they tear it apart to look for Jews or Jewish propaganda. Shortly after, Captain K and Finkel show up to drop off more posters for him to put up, but they stay to see how the investigation goes. When they go upstairs, the main Gestapo notices that Jojo's missing his knife. Elsa shows up dressed as Inga and gives it back. This definitely raises suspicions, but she pulls off a remarkable performance that ends with the Gestapo leaving. After they leave, Jojo tries to tell her that she fooled them, but she realizes that she missed something when it came to the date of birth. She knows that Captain K will notice that she messed up, and he'll be back. Jojo sees this as Captain K helping them though. Captain K has spent this entire movie seeming like he's over the German viewpoint of the war and Jews. I honestly couldn't tell you if he'll be the one to blow the whistle, or if he really will let them live in peace. Here's hoping for that happy ending. I know I'm wrong though. Later downstairs, Jojo fights with imaginary Hitler as he questions Jojo's patriotism. Later on, Jojo walks the streets of Germany as everyone's making preparations for the invasion. And he follows a butterfly into the courtyard as he experiences peace for the first time in a long time. Well, one might have seen that coming, but it's way too early for that. And I feel like this is right before the war ended. She almost made it. What's he gonna do now? After Jojo sits and watches his mother swing for a bit, he goes back home to stab Elsa, who's sitting at Inga's desk. When she sees him coming at her, she starts to get concerned. But when Jojo swings, he barely pokes the skin. After realizing that he can't do it, he goes to leave, but collapses and cries instead. That night, sirens go off as bombs drop elsewhere in the city, and Jojo and Elsa talk about what Rosie told her about her job. The next day, Jojo walks through the rubble of the city as he scavenges for food and firewood. As time passes, he and Elsa get closer and continue to survive, but the city is under siege eventually. I'm sold on the theory that Yorkie's what happened to Hitler. Yorkie's probably responsible for taking out half of the Gestapo that was left in the city. Jojo tells Yorkie that he still has his Jew, and they're basically boyfriend and girlfriend now. Yorkie congratulates him, and he tells him that there are far worse things out there than Jews.
I heard they eat babies and have sex with dogs.
Well, that's the first I've heard about it, but Yorkie sounds absolutely terrified. This is definitely a weird time to do this movie. Once Jojo hears that Hitler's dead, Jojo and Yorkie run from an Allied tank. Eventually, Jojo ends up on his own during the siege, and he looks around at what's really going on around him. He even finds Captain K defending the city in his colorful outfit with Finkel. He also sees piles of dead around him, and he hurries back home. On his way, he finds that American soldiers have already made it this far, and he hopes that there's something left. As the city falls to the Allies, Jojo gets rounded up with the other soldiers, and he finds Captain K there. Captain K takes this chance to apologize to Jojo for his mother, and he acts as though Jojo's a Jew, so the soldiers throw him out of the group. Jojo gets home, and he goes straight for Inga's room to see if Elsa made it. Elsa's hiding in her wall room, and he tries to tell her that she needs to stay with him. At this point, you really have to look at it from Jojo's side. He's completely alone, and it's all been for nothing. He's seeing it as Elsa doesn't have anyone else either, and they should just stay together at this point. Also, he's 10. How much can you really put on a 10-year-old's shoulders when he just saw his mother hanging? Jojo decides that he has to set things right. He pretends to write another letter from Elsa's fiancé, and it's about how Jojo's devising a plan for her to escape to meet him. Elsa finally opens up and tells Jojo that her fiancé actually died the year before. So Jojo's been writing letters as a dead fiancé? Man, Jojo's completely messed up for life at this point. Now that Jojo's had a change of heart, he tries to leave with Elsa, but imaginary Hitler shows up to confront him about his relationship with Elsa. Jojo's done with Hitler though. Oh yeah! Perfect ending for that storyline. Back downstairs, Jojo finally takes Elsa outside for her first steps as a free girl. She slaps Jojo for his lie of who won, but the two of them dance together in the street as survivors. Then, the credits roll. I'm actually quite upset with myself for taking so long to watch this movie. It was phenomenal, and it's been a while since we had a good World War II movie from a new perspective. Just go watch it, you'll see. And with the tension between countries at this point in time, who knows? Maybe a new Jojo Rabbit will pop up in real life. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.